Hi, this is Ben. Ben Gillette, Penn and Teller. Big guy does magic, smaller guy next to me, he does magic too. He doesn't talk that much. Anyway, I wanted to welcome you to In Time. Welcome you all to In Time with Nick. Love you all. Peace. Go get him, Nick.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to In Time. My name is Nicholas Lamar Suter. We are back, as you can tell, and as you can tell, of course, because it is in time, not on time. We may have a little bit of an echo. If we do, let me know. I will see if I can deal with that. We also do have Lance. His window is, of course, closed, but you should be able to hear him. Lance, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's good. So
keep things quiet because I have very agitated puppies right now.
Right, and I probably got you in the wrong window there. I'll get that fixed in a second. Sorry, they tell you that the audio is the hardest part of any show, and it is. We were ready to go. We had everything set up, except you couldn't hear me. And so there's one heck of a hack to get it done, but it is done. And Commander's voice is a little low. I can probably up that a bit. He has to stay kind of quiet. So having said that, and as excited as I am to be back, we were actually mid-interview with the Shills. I think that's the third time in our 4 years that we've been in the middle of an interview and there's been breaking news and we had to get to it. We were, in fact, expecting this today. President Joe Biden has dropped out of the race for president. That means that he will be a one-term president. This will be, who I want to say it was Hoover, who also only went one term. It's not unprecedented, but it's one of those things that we've
Well,
been ambivalent about. Yes.
technically, LBJ is also a one term because he only does the one term, and then he fills part of the remaining part of Kennedy's term. So technically, he's only elected once.
That's true. He didn't do another run. So
Yeah, he dropped out in the '68 run.
let me hold on a sec. I'm getting there's also on top of trying, of course, to get all of this working. There's a dozen DMs. Have you heard? Biden's dropped out. Yes, we've heard. Thank you. So while I've got you here, you got his letter. Do you mind reading the letter from Biden?
Me?
Yes, please.
Oh, well, let me bring it back up and I will do so. My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, as America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation, in lowering prescriptive drugs costs for seniors, and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to millions of veterans exposed to toxic substances. We passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate change legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been possible without you, the American people. Together, we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interests of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all of those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in this work. And let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for their faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Signed, Joe Biden.
All right. So that is Joe Biden saying that he is not going to continue his candidacy. He is dropping out. This means that we are going to have a contested convention. And we've had a lot of talk about, is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? What are your thoughts, Commander?
His dropping out now really puts the Democratic Party, I think, behind an 8 ball for a couple of reasons. The most obvious is right now there's nobody who's a front runner, if you will, for taking over the nomination slot. And this is going to set off a whole swirl of people who are trying to grab that brass ring. And anytime there's that kind of thing going on, it builds animosity and division within the party of, I want to back this guy, and why did this guy get the nomination kind of thing. We saw that with the one where we had Hillary and Bernie competing for the title, and people got mad about that. The second thing is that I believe 2 states have actually already locked their ballots. And one of those, I believe, is Georgia, which is kind of a key battleground state for this election cycle. And the day after the Democratic convention wraps up, which I can't remember it. I think it's the 23rd. I might be wrong. It might be the 22nd, whatever. The day after that, roughly another dozen states also locked their ballots. So the Democrats need to sort this out in record time and do it in such a way that it keeps the party kind of all together and unified rather than divided and, get a potential splinter candidate running or something. I understand to some extent why Biden may have done this, but I think the timing is abysmal. I think if something like this was being even remotely considered, they should have made this call months ago, not now.
So it also is noticeable that he did not endorse anybody, in particular Vice President Kamala Harris. Why do you think he didn't do such an endorsement? Do you think he should, and do you think such an endorsement may be coming?
I suspect this endorsement will be coming once the party has settled on who that nominee is going to be. I don't think he wants to do anything prematurely for exactly the reasons I've said. He doesn't want to sow division. He wants to be seen as supportive and backing of the party's goals. There are a number of certainly well-qualified and fairly well-known potential candidates. Harris, I think, is probably, at least at the moment, at the top of the stack, but the kerfluffle hasn't started yet. And trust me, once that starts, it's going to get crazy.
I've heard it said that every single time there was a contested convention, that candidate won. You just gave an example where that was not true. Well, actually, was it a contested convention? No, because Hillary won. But there was a lot of what is it? There was a lot of vitriol over
sour grapes is the word you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, and that was over.
And I'll raise my hand and say I was one of them.
And what I would like to add is we actually do have. So I'm going to finish that in a sentence. Wow. We're having technical issues, host issues. My brain is all. I was in an interview, laughing, having a good time.
Are you going to drop out of the race, Nick?
No, I'm coming back in, baby. All right. We have Joe Biden has tweeted, which is really now, when Trump started this, I was just like, okay, this is not going to be a trend. This is just nope. Now we can expect all our national news by tweet. This is from the official Joe Biden Twitter account. I am still calling it Twitter. Fuck you, Elon Musk. Excuse me, I did not just say that. We're trying to watch our language with the newer polished. I still, when it comes to Musk, there are people who deserve it. From the Joe Biden official Twitter account, my fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination and to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. My first decision as the party's nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president. It has been the best decision I have made. Today, I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, it is time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. Now, what I was saying about the contested conventions, the idea is that when there has been an actual contested convention, like when Ted Kennedy came out and challenged, and I forget who it was, the presumptive nominee, and there was multiple rounds of voting, and the whole thing just got crazy. In every case where that has happened, my understanding is, and again, I was going to look it up and again interview, but my understanding is in every case where that has happened, the party that has had the contested convention ended up winning, and the thinking is because Bernie and Hillary aside, where there was sour grapes because of serious legal shenanigans going on behind the scenes at the DNC, where they were doing things. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I didn't want to have to break it to you. But what ends up happening in theory is everybody argues they elect a candidate that really wasn't what they wanted, but they're like, okay. And then they take a hard look at the next fight ahead of them, and that is the Democrats versus the Republicans. And they say, yeah, I really prefer our guy, even though it's not the one I voted for, any day. And they're already riled up. They're already ready to go. And boom. So it was my hope that he'd get behind Kamala right away. The thinking, I think, was that he shouldn't get behind anybody and he should let the process, occur naturally. But as you said, I don't think he's got a choice in the matter.
Yeah, I would agree. It's an interesting situation because, and I'm going to be blunt here, there are issues that Kamala brings to the table that can't be avoided. And in this race, we know it's going to be kind of tight because there are, the Republicans are focusing on certain key battleground states. They're pretty much ignoring everywhere else, realizing that they don't have either the finances or the message to be able to deliver a large, broad-based, plebiscite saying that Trump is the guy. So a number of those states are ones where there's a portion of that population who are inherently racist. And when you have a female candidate who's a minority, you're losing some of those potential uncommitted voters. Personally, I don't think they're entirely uncommitted, but there was more chance that they might back that white male as opposed to the minority female. And that's something that has to figure into the equation here. It's tragic that that's the reality that this country has.
Well, and it's almost a step worse because for the most part, it appears to me that while every racist tends to also be a misogynist, not every misogynist is also racist, if that makes sense. So you could say, well, gee, we elected a black man. We did. It's harder. And women make up 50% of the population. It's harder to elect a woman than it is a black man because you're going to find, again, racists are also misogynists, but not all misogynists are racist. So there's a larger percentage that just aren't going to vote for her because she's a woman.
Yeah, I agree. I heard somebody float the name Mike Kelly as a potential. Again, to me, I literally, once I heard people talking about that, I had to look it up. I didn't even know who the guy was. And that's one of the other things you need is you need name recognition. And a lot of the people that would potentially be alternate candidates to Harris, that's one of the problems you run into is they're relative unknowns. And as disgusting as the man may be, at least Trump has name recognition by this point. And how many Americans go in and, oh, I recognize that name and just put the check mark there. They don't know what they're voting for.
This is the very argument I had because I think this argument has been playing out amongst Democrats, friends, professionals, party insiders. There are a load of very qualified people you could replace him with, but the problem is better the devil you know than the devil you don't. And if somebody sees Trump on the ballot and a name they've never heard of, it doesn't matter if it's the pseudonym of Jesus Christ. They're going to go with the guy. And we're not talking absolutely everybody, but the problem is the battle is won in the center, not at the margins. The Democrats are going to vote the way they're going to vote. The Republicans are going to vote the way they're going to vote. The question is, what's going to happen with those people in the middle, and how many of them can you move?
Yeah. I think we can safely say that, there's about 30% on one flank and 30% on the other flank that are locked in. It's that 40% in the middle, and it's not just a block, it's a spectrum. And, what you're really focusing on probably is about 5 to 10% in the direct center of that middle spectrum, because the others are already leaning in one direction or the other. And those are the people both candidates are going to be focusing on and competing for.
It's an interesting, I think, okay. I'm going to do what I always do. This is in time, folks. You're going to get stuck with it. I'm going to tell a story, which is I remember in high school, and I got my first serious girlfriend, and I remember she was scared to walk to the car alone through the parking lot, and I trusted her implicitly. So there was no, oh, she's just being, I was just like, well, why is, and then all of a sudden, because you're intimately connected to another human being, you start to understand things that, guys wouldn't normally understand because they don't have to think about these things. And so there's a whole host of problems that, and when we talk about trans issues, when we talk about race issues, there's a whole host of problems that whatever percentage, usually the older white guy is just completely incapable of and unprepared to understand and deal with. One of these is seeing a black man president and seeing a female president. And there were many people who, Jesse Jackson Jr., who was crying and just said, I honestly never thought I'd see the day. So we're going to have, once again, a woman on the ballot. I think she's more electable than Hillary, although I will say, and I was no Hillary fan, but Jesus Christ, she was the most vetted candidate in human history.
Absolutely.
I mean, she was qualified. I don't care what you think. That she lost is wow. But at any rate, so we've now got a woman once again. Do you think that there's going to be conservative females, who are going to say, I am a conservative, but I want to see a woman president before I die? And is that going to be significant enough at least to move the needle? Maybe not make a win, but we're talking about what's moving the needle in one direction or another.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there will be some, but I don't want to venture into storytelling, but I've got relatives, or rather in-law relatives, who are on the right side, on the very Christian side of the aisle there. And I've heard them say things along the lines of, I would never vote for a woman because the Bible tells us women are supposed to be subservient to their husbands and yada, yada, yada. And
don't get any ideas, Lance.
That mentality, yes, dear, I hear and obey. Oh God. Anyway, I think part of that issue is that that faction, and it's not large, but it's large enough, would say, no, we can't have a woman in the White House because it's the natural place of the male to lead and the woman to follow. And before anybody starts saying, yeah, but those are the extremists at that end who are already going to vote for Trump and there's nothing we can do to sway them. True, but I think they're also on that group in the center, in that spectrum, people who could be, for lack of a better word, competitively pulled away from that side if they weren't looking at that biblical issue. It's a tragic reality of the political makeup of this country.
Donald Trump's VP has said unequivocally that he intends to make abortion illegal across this country. So he's actually violating, in essence, in part, the very arguments that were used to invalidate Roe v. Wade, which is it should at least be a state issue. He doesn't think it should be a state issue. He thinks it should be a federal issue, and it should be banned across the country, period, end of discussion. How much do you think that is going to play into this election?
I'm honestly, I don't know. It's throw the pieces in the air and see where they fall.
Well, and it's somebody did a meme that was on our Discord, which is open. I saw somebody asking about that. The Discord is open. We'll talk about that and a few other obvious questions, like why is my black round back? I mean, we'll get into all that in a minute. But I saw a meme that was saying, has anyone told Trump's new vice presidential candidate that he tried to have his last one hung? I think that's like maybe pertinent information, like when you're signing up for the job, like, what happened to the guy I'm replacing? Well, we erected a gallows. Mistakes were made. We didn't get to him in time. He runs faster than you'd think. Jesus. So, all right. I'm gonna talk to the live chat for just a little bit. Yes, we are back, and I've had, I think, now our third show where we were in the middle of an interview and we get breaking news, and it's always a tough thing because I appreciate everybody who's going to give me an interview, and it was with the shills, and it was a lot of fun. We were having a good time, and we did anticipate that this was going to happen today. We had the thing up and ready to go. In Time is coming back, in case you haven't noticed, but it is in time, not on time as ever. So issues. Very little has changed, folks. Really. The graphics are a little higher resolution, and we still don't know what time it is. But and I still don't know how to work the audio. So we'll get there.
Hey!
We do have the Discord up. It is, as always, discord.intimeshow.com. There's also links in the description. You can come on in and join us. We're supposed to do a premiere on Wednesday that was going to say, oh, by the way, we're back. We may have jumped the gun on that one. We thought this was important enough to do. I do want to say this. In our absence, and during the interview that had to get interrupted to do this show, I was thinking a little bit about what In Time does and what it means. And first of all, the amount of support that I've gotten over the last year when we've been off air from people just on other shows, Two Guys Talking History, I'd go in there, and I learned something important, which is that somehow Titan knows all my sock accounts, because I'll come in, I'll start trolling Titan, and he like DMs me and he goes, "Nice try, Nick." I was like, "You fucking son of a..." Anyways, so don't troll Titan. It's really not advisable. But that's usually so. If you see Titan around, there was a 50-50. I had a sock account there, and so many people were so gracious, and it kind of caught me off guard, because I'm like, I love doing this, and I hope that we talk about things that are important to people and get people so they at least know how to break down information and break down the news, and to see so much, and to see all of you right now in this Discord and what you've been saying. So first of all, to me personally, it has meant a lot. A lot of you have passed messages on through others, and I have been getting those messages, and it's meant a lot. I'm gonna fucking break down and cry. actually, if I talk too much more about it. So I'll move on. I will also say that I've had time to think about what in time really is and how we do what we do. And I've been very thankful for the likes of Commander Macmillan. We are going to edit that part out of the, I mean, that's YouTube's got the editing tools now. So we'll edit this part of the speech. But as somebody just said, you know, oh, the world's gotten crazier without in time. No, the world would have gotten crazier anyway. But it's more important than ever to take a look at news and break it down and think about it and talk about it. It has always been a privilege to be able to do that and to have the support that I've had. And I am very grateful and humbled not only to be back, but to have had so many people, including this man right here, say, welcome back. What can I do to help? So thank you all very much. I really genuinely appreciate it. Like I said, we're going to do a short 5-minute premiere that's going to say all that much more eloquently and quickly. So that's what we are, and we are going to be doing as soon as you clear out your guests. We're going to be doing downtime again. That channel is up and running and ready to be screwed up technically by our incompetent producers once again. Anyways, all right. So I don't think in the history of the U.S. anyone has dropped out this rapidly. Did you say Georgia is already locked?
I recall reading somewhere there are 2 states that already locked, and what's weird is they did it before the conventions were concluded. Now, there may be some funny thing that you can do to get your nominee in if it's a different one than the convention predicted, or prior to the convention it was predicted. But I think Georgia and one other, but there are, I think it's 10 states that literally the day after the convention lock their ballots. So yeah, it's going to be really, really tight.
It's been a long time since I've had to go over, and I think each state does it differently how they lock the ballots, but most of them do have a contingency for, like, say, the death of the candidate and so on and so forth. And if that candidate is unavailable, the party still gets to choose. So I don't know how Georgia handles that. Yeah, I know the dog. It's been a year.
People are asking about him, so.
I know. I see the live chat. It's been a year, and people aren't like, Mick looks good. He's lost a little weight.
But we want to see the dogs.
We want to see the dogs. I know. Dog time. I don't like. Thanks. Well, we could sit here and talk about news and like Donald Trump is going to end the world if he gets to be president again. Exactly. Everybody knows this shit already. Anyway. Oh dear Lord. So I. That's what I need. I need a mascot. I need like a dog or a cat or something. The problem is the cat will jump on the keyboard. I've seen channels that do that too. That they've got a cat. All of a sudden, the show goes crazy. It's actually really fun to watch. In this case, you don't need the cat. You just let me produce the show, and who knows what's going to happen next. All right, I'm going to give everybody a minute to ask any final questions before we call it a day. I am going to say that just like we said before, it's been an interesting. We've been tracking this on the Discord. The Discord's had kind of a soft open, and we've been tracking this for a while. We heard about 3 days ago that Biden had in fact been convinced to drop. We then heard that he changed his mind, and then that he forgot that he had been convinced to drop, and that there was a report that basically, and this is all in if you've been on our Discord, you've seen we just catalog all this stuff. Then there was a report that he basically was behaving more erratically than at the debate, which honestly wasn't great. I was going to take a pot shot and say, like, oh, it's hard to imagine. I mean, it wasn't great, but he wasn't like, he was bad for the position, but he wasn't. You understand?
I think if you go back and you read a transcript of the debate, and don't listen to the live recording, he comes off entirely logical. Everything else, it's his demeanor when he was speaking that everybody immediately said, "Oh, he's an old man. He doesn't know how to think. He's broken," And honestly, I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes with the people who own all the big media outlets. And I think they've been convinced that, yeah, we want to see the orange guy back in office. And so they're doing everything they can to twist those dials without being obvious about it.
I agree that
Yeah,
corporations
exactly.
want him back. I do
It's all
think
about Benjamins.
I saw some what are called senior moments where he just sort of lost the track of his thought and then went somewhere else. Now I get those too, so But on the flip side, he worried me when I was watching. So that's not to say that I think you're wrong about corporate America media and corporate media and where they're trying to go, but
See, for me, I'm less concerned with the guy sitting at the top than I am with the people he surrounds himself with and he puts in the key positions that actually run the bureaucracy. And for my purposes, when you look at the kind of people Trump surrounded himself with, I mean, God, it's a rogues gallery right out of the Dachau prison management system in some cases. It's just, and you go, we're really going to let this guy come back in and put these kind of people in charge of the country. They've written a freaking plan which they publish, which is basically we're going to kill everybody we don't like. At what point are people going to freaking wake up and say, huh, maybe this isn't the person we want running things? Yeah, we don't particularly like this guy, but he's certainly better than having Pol Pot running the country.
That's going to lead me to a question in a second, but I do think that especially, and it may just be a Democrat versus Republican thing, I think Democrats are much more like, hey, look, you can put in a guy who can be the captain of the ship, and everybody else is going to be running the ship. He doesn't need to. He just needs to have the command that that Biden clearly does have, and everybody else is getting the stuff done. Whereas with the Republicans, they're like, no, he has to be able to be the fully in charge, 100%, my way. But the thing is, Trump isn't that way. Trump actually likes to be completely hands-off so long as he has complete deference to him. So the people who wrote this plan that you're talking about, as long as that plan contains complete deference to him, he doesn't really care what's on it. So I don't think of... and you did make this distinction. I don't think of...
He didn't write the thing. He had nothing to do with it, even though his name was mentioned like 250 times in the document.
Even though it came from the Heritage Foundation and said, yeah.
So disingenuous. It's, oh God, get
rid
of people.
The thing with him is I think he's the useful idiot to these people. I think the plan, he's a shitty human being in general. It's hard to imagine many shittier human beings, but he's not malevolent in many ways that I think the people around him are. And they've just said, hey, wait a minute, here's a guy who, as long as there's a new series I just recently started watching. It's called The Boys. It's a little gruesome for my taste, but it's satire. Have you heard of it? It's called The Boys. It's on Amazon. It is...
Oh, I think I watched like 2 episodes of the first season, and it just didn't resonate with me.
It's... Oh, hold on a sec.
It's like a superhero movie of some sort?
Yeah, it's a superhero, but...
Okay.
All right, I can... Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I keep seeing the word popping up in chat, transactional. Yeah, that's the key thing with Trump. He can be manipulated and bought to do what you want. and I think Vance, who's his Veep nominee, is kind of the same thing. And I suspect that the people behind the throne are going, maybe a year into the second term, he might fall out of a window accidentally, and then we can have a guy who's a little more balanced and definitely manipulable.
Well, and to be fair, Trump is a big fan of Putin and how they do things in Russia. So I think.
Precisely.
Yeah. Speaking of an old man moment and just losing my train of thought. The show The Boys. I think it's what's interesting about it is it flips the superhero narrative on its head, and the superheroes are all actually mostly bad guys, and they're people who abuse their powers and who don't care about anybody, but they're run by this mega corporation that just does all the social media for them, and so they look like heroes, and they look like they're spectacular, and and the main guy is called Homelander, and the references to him being Trump and acting like Trump, and his cape is an American flag and all this other stuff, and he is psychopathic, sociopathic. But he knows how to, and then he puts on this grin when he's like, two kids say, would like to get a picture with you. And he looks like, oh God, I got to take a picture with kids. Sure, let's do a selfie. And he does this, and it's, I haven't seen the whole show. Like I said, it's awfully gory and a little bit much for me. But okay, and I think as Andrew's in the green room, I'm going to try to get him in here because I'd like to get his take on this. But we had a really great test, but I've learned something from Commander McMillan, which is no YouTube stream survives contact with YouTube. It just, however much you plan, it just doesn't. It's as soon as you connect to YouTube, boom. So, and then Titan sent us a piece, so we're a little behind on a couple of things. It is important to me to try to get his Andrew in here. So let's see if he's in the green room. It doesn't show him. Yes, it does. There he is. So let me try. Oh, we're going to see how this goes. Who knows? I have no idea whether this is going to work. Zandring, are you there?
Well, I'm here.
All right. Well, I can hear him. I hope everyone else can hear him, and I can probably get the picture up in a minute. And we lost, and by doing that, I lost Lance, of course.
I can hear him.
Oh, you can hear him, but of course I can't. There's always something. So, well, while I've got you, welcome, Xandering. Welcome to the show. What are your thoughts on today's events?
I know a lot of people kept saying that he was going to drop out. A lot of speculation over him dropping out. I never really actually expected them to do it at this latest stage. It seems like there's something a little awry going on in the Democratic Party, that there's this much friction and things aren't moving super well. This is a really bad time for him to have finally decided to maybe I should drop out, because there's not a whole lot of time. I've heard a lot of other people speculating about, if he drops out, what happens. I guess there's some question about how much of the funds that the Biden campaign has raised thus far can actually be legally used for another candidate. So this is, I just wasn't really expecting them to actually go through and do this. I figured they were just ginning up a bunch of kind of interest or media presence about, a story of, he may drop out, or people are calling for him to drop out. I didn't think he actually would. So now that apparently he has, that makes things very interesting. and I'm not sure what they're going to do. It's like, who are they going to replace him with? From polling data, which we all know how accurate polling data has been in the last couple of election cycles. Kamala Harris seems to be, pretty unpopular a candidate.
He has endorsed her.
Nobody else. Oh, did he endorse her? I didn't get a chance to read the dang thing.
Yeah, he did it on Twitter because, if you're going to endorse a candidate for vice president of the most powerful country in the world, the best place to do. Oh, Jesus, I can't even.
I know. Leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
Exactly.
X is absolutely the place where everything's happening.
Please don't call it X.
Everybody hated Elon. Why in the heck is he announcing on X, formerly known as Twitter?
I have no clue.
To be honest, in his letter, if you read between the lines, it's a quasi-endorsement. But yeah, the official endorsement came out on Twitter. So, but yeah.
Well, and he needs to do it fast because, like you said, they're locking up the they're locking up the tickets in states across the country. So if he doesn't do it, he's not going to be on the ballot. I honestly thought Trump was not going to be on the ballot in Georgia. I thought this was, and you guys will probably remember it was a while ago, but we had a discussion where we said, look, all that has to happen is he gets convicted in Georgia of tampering with the vote, and then he can't be on the ballot and he's lost because there's no road to 270 for a Republican that does not go through Georgia. Having said that, that's now off the table, so he will be on the ballot. Now, if Biden's not on the ballot in Georgia, it's not great, but he can survive it. But if there's 2-3 states on which he ends up not being on the ballot because they lock the ballot, or let me rephrase that, Biden is on the ballot and Kamala isn't, that's game over.
Yeah. Well, I don't doubt that the states will scramble to do something to reset the names on their ballots.
Well, once they're locked,
time to do it.
Once they're locked, and there was a difference. I think it's different in every state. And I'm trying to remember. It's been a while. I mean, this was like.
It also will make a difference as to which state you're talking about, because states which are dominated by Republican MAGA cultists, they will go out of their way to make sure that the ballot does not offer a Democratic alternative if that is presented as a potential option for them.
Oh, all right. So we've got the. All right. I've got Titans.
Maya just said something which I totally agree with, which is Kamala's the heir apparent as VP. She wants the nomination, and not supporting her would alienate Black and female voters across the country. The DNC's hands are pretty much tied at this point, I think.
Which, to be fair, I think is a good thing, because if they're going to sit and bicker and argue and not get behind, nobody wants to be told who to vote for. But if they don't just sit there and go behind whoever's been anointed by Biden, they're going to lose. And unfortunately, and we've got Hillary Clinton has now endorsed Kamala Harris after Biden has. So that's another.
My wife just pointed something out. My political advisor has pointed something out. All the funds that Biden has raised up to now could be transferred to Kamala, but nobody else.
Oh,
yeah, that was some of the issue. Yeah, that was some of the issues that a lot of people were bringing up was the legality on what funds can be spent where, and the fact that if it's not Biden or Kamala Harris, then that ties a lot of those funds up, and they can't legally be spent on a different candidate. So I had questions about how that worked out, because I don't know exactly how all of the finance laws work.
That is a really big deal.
All right, so let's see. I'm trying to figure out. So this was Brian Taylor Cohen ran a poll. Top VP picks for Kamala Harris coming in at 51%. Pete Buttigieg Gavin Newsom at 26%, Josh Shapiro at 14%, and Mark Kelly at 9%. Now, Shapiro, people had said before, and they're like, John Shapiro. Not John Shapiro. Not Josh. I've actually had to have this argument. They're like, that's a bold choice. It's like, yes, yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, at least maybe it wasn't Ben.
Oh, yeah. That would be interesting, too.
That would be very interesting, especially considering he just put out a big old hit piece on Kamala Harris.
So, and actually, it's not just, it's both Clintons. So it appears to be both Clintons, and that's actually important because Hillary is, and I think rightly Hillary's is slightly more important because she was the most recent one to run, but Bill's as a former two-termer is also very important, and yeah, so it looks like this has been decided. It looks like they're like game on. We are now going full stream. Kamala will be the Democratic nominee. She will have to pick a vice president extraordinarily quickly, not so much because of the ticket issue, but because nobody's going to want to even think about voting for her until they know who her VP is. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. Any thoughts on, as we wrap this up, we have a situation now where Biden has, for those of you just joining us, Biden has dropped out of the race. He will remain president and he will continue out his term, but he will not run for re-election, and he has endorsed his current vice president, Kamala Harris. She has also now received the endorsement of both Clintons, and if she's received their endorsement, then it's the whole DNC. I mean, and for reasons we all know, whether we approve or not, we all know at this point what that means. So, any thoughts on the news today? And let's start with you, Commander.
I think at this point, it's still very early in the cycle, and a lot of additional information hasn't come out yet, but I think we've pretty much discussed everything that we can at this point. But I think the next couple of days are going to be absolutely critical to deciding how and in what direction this all plays out. Because I'll bet this is leaving the Trump side of the campaign, the Republicans, equally in chaos, because their entire strategy has been focused on, oh, we don't want the old incompetent man running things anymore. Look at our great heroic savior who has been shot in the ear and still managed to wave his fist defiantly as he was escorted off the stage, all that crap. They now need to figure out how they're going to change the focus of their campaign, because they're dealing with a completely different, situation.
And Kamala Harris, so there's still one debate left coming up, and so she'll presumably be doing that. I remember the debate between Clinton and Trump, and I remember Trump being creepy as fuck during that debate, and Hillary just kind of ignoring it and pushing through it. And but with Kamala has put away hardened criminals and murderers, and she's a really tough fucking cookie. So I'm gonna be interested to see what happens when Trump tries to push her around. Is Andrew, what are your thoughts?
I agree that it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm going to pop some popcorn in my brand new microwave in my brand new truck and watch the show. I have a feeling, though, that the Democratic Party has committed seppuku and that they're not going to win because of this.
Do you think they had a chance outside of this? I mean, do you think they had a chance with Biden?
I think that they might have had a chance, possibly. the problem is everything is now in so much flux that nobody knows what's going on. You're switching horses in the middle of a race, and you have absolutely no idea if that horse is going to actually run. So I'm just, it's going to be interesting to watch. Maybe this will be the best thing that happens to them, but I don't believe that it will be. I have a feeling this is going to cause a whole bunch of problems, and it's paving the way for Trump to just simply win fairly easily. And I guess we'll see. I've yet to see any kind of polling data that shows Kamala even being remotely popular with voters. So I think that the thing to have done would have been for Biden originally to have never said that he was running for re-election, to have come out and said, look, I was always planning on being a one-term president. That was the whole kind of deal when we stepped up. We had to stop the Marmalade Mussolini, and everything was going to be great. And now I'm turning it over to, and then have somebody sitting in the wings ready to step up and take leadership. This seems to be so chaotic. It seems like there's a huge amount of infighting and backbiting inside of the Democratic Party over what's going on. Joe saying, "Oh no, I'm not going to leave," and then other people sending letters saying, "No, I think maybe you should step down." And to have done it this late, if it wasn't just a publicity stunt to try and get people talking about or interested in presidential politics, I think this was a very, very bad wound to inflict upon yourself at this stage in the election.
I will say, like I said, we on the Discord had been banting about whether or not we thought this was going to happen. We thought this was going to happen, so we went into standby for this today. But yesterday he sent out this thing saying, "I'm not going to step down." So we're all sitting there going like, we're trying to, oh dear Lord. All right.
Well, let me ask you one last question.
Please.
What if, and I know you guys don't like speculative history, so to speak, but what if he had done this back arguably last year and said, "No, I don't intend to run. I'm not going to endorse any particular candidate right now," or maybe given a weak endorsement to Harris, to allow the party to sort through its potential candidates and come up with a nominee that they all agree upon. Would that have actually put the Democrats in a stronger position right now?
I believe it would have, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh yeah, they could have gone through the entire primary process. The Democratic voters and a lot of the independent voters who just don't like Trump would have been able to see all the different candidates showcased. I have a feeling that Robert Kennedy Jr. had something to do with some of the decisions made trying to block him from winning the Democratic primary. So there's just a lot of shenanigans going on, and some of those shenanigans are starting to come to light, and people don't really like to see how the sausage is made. So I think they would have been in a lot better position had they come out from the start and just said, Biden is not running for re-election. He did his thing. He brought back stability to the country, got rid of, somebody who was, unpredictable and had no idea what he was going to do, whose administration seemed to be a nightmare of a mess of hiring the wrong people, and then, just kind of scandal after scandal on the news. So, yeah, I think that they would have been in a lot better position, but I have a feeling there's a lot more going on at high levels of the DNC than any of us know about. Yeah. That caused us to eventually end up down this path.
For my part, that's I really hate to the words I hate the most. I don't know. I don't know because I understand the motivation for people who vote for Trump. I think more than a lot of people do. And I think a lot of that motivation really is actually spite. It's spite towards the left. And it's people who know that Trump is an asshole. They know he's not. Look, he uses a golden toilet, of course he's not the common man. And I don't think that the average Republican is so stupid as to actually believe that he's the common man, even when they say what I like about him is that he's the common man. I think it's a lot more.
Antithesis of common.
Yeah, and I don't think they're so stupid as to not realize that. I think there's enough of him that is common that they can just glom onto that and say that's what it is. What it is his number one qualification is he really pisses off the left. And after the left pissing them off for so many years, for so many God knows reasons that we've talked about, I think that that vote for just about anybody as long as they passed a certain bar, and I don't think he passes that bar, but I think he does to them, and I think they see it that way, so that's where we are. Given that, I have a hard time understanding what would have happened. I mean, again, I have never liked Hillary Clinton, but I actually felt that she was very qualified, very competent, and I would have happily voted for her because it's not a personality contest and because she would have done a great job in my view. And I have no idea at this point what it would take to swing some of those voters that are in the middle but closer to the right that you and I were talking about earlier, Lance. I don't know what motivates them anymore. I can't. That's beyond my ability to understand. So I don't know if this sudden change in putting Kamala in is enough to get enough of them over and have the Democrats win, or if it would have been better purely from the Democrats' winning perspective, not from a democracy perspective or anything else, but from just not having the Marmalade Mussolini in for another 4 years. If it would have been better to actually have a long drawn out, but the long drawn out seems, from what I've seen, seems to play to him. That's what it looks like to me. I don't know if that's true, but it seems to play to him because it doesn't matter what he does wrong, he's bulletproof. What his opponents do wrong, it's over. So on a long enough timeline, he will out-endure anybody. So this may have been really the best way to do it. I don't know. That's speculation, but that's one of the thoughts that comes to my mind to answer the question, if that is an answer.
If we're talking speculative fiction, I'm going to recommend you pull out at least one roll of tinfoil and wrap it around your head, because this is going to be probably a one roller conspiracy theory here. Is that there was a conspiracy between the mainstream news to kind of force this issue out, to start airing some of this dirty laundry, to hamper the Democratic Party in order to get Trump back in office, because they made a lot of hay out of Trump being president. And even with Biden being president, they were still making a lot of hay out of, the events of January 6th, the committee hearings, Trump being charged and arraigned, and the trials. And it seems like everything that the mainstream media has been going on about has been heavily Trump centric, and especially a lot of their pundits, their opinion pieces, not necessarily maybe the straight up news. So, again, make sure that tinfoil is wrapped tightly around your head and think about the possibility.
Oh, Lance is getting he gets this every time I say that maybe the Americans blew up the pipeline. I'm not gonna go back there again, but
no, the dog just unplugged my mic. That's
why okay.
Plug it back in. Don't say anything, Dad.
I warned you. You made sure you have your aluminum foil that it was speculative fiction.
The mainstream media has not yet
anymore.
The mainstream media has not yet figured out that Trump is a huge fucking troll, and the reality is, if you speak negatively or positively of him, you are doing him a favor. It doesn't matter either way. What were you gonna say? And then I got actually a statement here that I want to read, and then we'll probably wrap this up.
I was just going to say, I agree to some extent that mainstream media was playing fast and loose with the facts to suit, their preferences. But I don't think it's so much about generating viewership for the media so much as filling the political message of the owners of said media.
Rupert Murdoch and
Yeah, but it's not just that. All the major media outlets, and I'm not just talking ABC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC. I'm talking Fox and all the rest of them. All of those are very wealthy American oligarch types or whatever. There is a benefit to their personal fortunes to see Cheeto Benito back in office. And they don't want to be overt about how they're scripting the media, but they definitely want a specific outcome that favors them.
I remember my father used to, my father practiced law in 6 languages, and he taught languages for free to people who wanted to learn, and he was teaching German. And he was in Colorado, and he was teaching German to a neo-Nazi, which it turned out was not popular amongst many of his neighbors. And he made the suggestion that he's going to learn German one way or another. Would he rather learn German from a historian who knows what actually happened to Germany as a result of Hitler, or would he rather learn German from someone who has no idea what really goes on in the world? And he, at one point, the neo-Nazi had said, well, Hitler, managed to restore honor and integrity and fix the German economy and all of these things. And my father said, yeah, and all
the
it did,
trains run on time.
yeah, and that's true. He did. He did all these things, and all it did was cost, however many million German lives. Can you imagine if Germany had elected someone who could do it without killing everybody?
I think Russia's in the same boat today. It's just, Putin he doesn't care how many Russians die to further his political and imperial designs. They're just people. We can make more of them. They're a resource.
What's scary is to see how many people who are otherwise at least decent people genuinely benefit from having Trump in office, or just as an ancillary way, not directly, but in some ancillary way, the profit and the benefit that they get. So they're willing to look the other way on just some absolutely horrific things. I'm looking at it and I'm sitting there going like, I really don't want to be hyperbolic, but I'm sitting there going, is this, when they're sitting there saying, Hitler really does know how to fix the German economy. I mean, it's, and you read the plan, you read the 209. We're gonna, we've got some shows planned on these topics.
Definitely needs to be the subject of an entire show.
Yeah, we're gonna have a show on that. We've got a whole bunch of shows. So what I'm most looking forward to, we're gonna wait until we get our legs back under us, and that's gonna take, I think, a couple of weeks. I think the start of this show highlighted that. But after that, we're going to get Ben Hodges back, and like I said before, we're going to talk to him about NATO. But so few people. I haven't seen a single interview about who is he as a person. I mean, what does it take to become the number 2 guy at NATO, the number 2 guy in the United States, commander of all U.S. forces in Europe? That's got to take a lot of drive. It's got to take a lot of sacrifice. I want to talk to him about that, and we're going to, of course, talk to him about NATO, Ukraine. So. We're going to do that. We're going to have a lot of shows on all of these questions coming up. We've already got a few tentatively scheduled. Our Discord is open. Things are sort of back up and running. And like I said, just getting our legs under us. I do have 2 quick things that I want to get to. And it's going to be news all day. So if you want to keep up with us, come into the Discord. And that's where the news is going to be doing. Thank you both for coming on such short notice. It's like, there isn't going to be breaking news before. We're going to do a nice little thing on Wednesday that's going to say, hey, In Time is coming back. And Joe Biden just dropped out. But, okay.
Yeah, see, this wouldn't have been news if it hadn't have happened this late in the game.
That's true. Well, it would have been news, but it wouldn't have been. We wouldn't have just broken like, I'm on the shows like, hey, it's been great talking to you guys. Bye. So we already do have now GOP legal challenges in the battleground states to keep Biden on the ticket, or to keep him on the ballot, and to not allow his name to be removed so that you could not vote for Kamala. So it looks like legal challenges are already being prepared. And in the meantime, there is a statement from, it was actually Bill Clinton who tweeted this out, but it is from President Bill Clinton and from Secretary Hillary Clinton. President Biden has capped his extraordinary career of service with a presidency that has lifted America out of an unprecedented pandemic, created millions of new jobs, rebuilt a battered economy, strengthened our democracy, and restored our standing in the world. By any measure, he has advanced our founders' charge to build a more perfect union, and his own stated goal of restoring the soul of our nation. We join millions of Americans in thanking President Biden for all he has accomplished, standing up for America time and again, with his North Star always being what is best for the country. We are honored to join President Biden in endorsing Vice President Harris, and will do whatever we can do to support her. We've lived through many ups and downs, but nothing has made us more worried for our country than the threat posed by a second Trump term. He has promised to be a dictator on day one, and the recent ruling by his servile Supreme Court will not only embolden him to further shred the Constitution. Oh, wow, I must have read that. His servile Supreme Court will only embolden him to further shred the Constitution. Now is the time to support Kamala Harris and to fight with everything we've got to elect her. America's future depends on it. That coming from former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, both of whom now have endorsed Kamala Harris for president. So for those of you joining us, Joe Biden has dropped out. He is remaining president of the United States. He's going to conclude his term, but he has endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris, for president. There is going to be a number of legal issues, as we said. So we'll stay on that. There's gonna be a lot to cover. We missed the near assassination of Trump and a few other things, and I was like, I wonder in time coming back now if there's going to be things to cover. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. Thank you all once again for joining us, and we'll have more information for you on our return and everything else. Come to the Discord. Everyone's hanging out there, and if you want to support the show, we really appreciate it. You can always become a member and or join us on the Patreon. If you feel like helping us out that way, you can. You can also just help us out by joining on the Discord and saying hi. So we look forward to hearing from you. In the meantime, we had this clip. We're gonna end out on this clip, and we'll call it a day. If of course the clip is going to play, which is always I can probably bring it up by hand.
Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
All right. So I think that was a little longer, but that was we got that from Titan. That was a very nice. Well, that's why. There you go. Nice quote. All right. Thank you both for joining me. Thank you all for coming to this surprise episode of In Time. We will be doing once I have to get permission from the commander's superior officer in the House before we can get him back on downtime. When they get, she lets us know when we can get him, but we'll get him back on downtime, and our shows will be returning. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Xandering. Thank you, Commander, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a good day.